Good afternoon, distinguished guests, esteemed panelists, colleagues and friends. It is my great pleasure to be here today in this year's STEM and Future Innovation Summit, a platform that brings together leaders, visionaries, and emerging talents to shape the scientific and technological future of our region. This summit highlights the essential role that women and young people play in driving scientific progress, digital transformation, and innovation towards the future. Thank you for the organizers for the kind invitation. My name is Shahira Wasif, and I serve as a cluster coordinator for the Governance and Societal Development Cluster of GIZ Egypt. It's the German Development Agency, where we strive every day to empower young people and women to excel in their fields, to build partnerships to foster exchange, learning, and innovation, and to support institutions and policy frameworks on their path towards becoming more inclusive, future-oriented, and resilient. It is therefore a privilege to be moderating today's session with your excellencies. Today's session is titled Innovation Diplomacy, a global vision for the future of STEM, and it focuses on how nations collaborate, advance their competitiveness, exchange knowledge, and build innovation ecosystems to prepare future generations, particularly youth and young women, to thrive in an interconnected, rapidly evolving technological landscape. So we have the privilege of having with us here 4 exceptional leaders whose countries and institutions are shaping today's important conversation. Representing one of Africa's strongest scientific communities and knowledge economies, His Excellency Ntsiki Mashimbye, Ambassador of South Africa. Representing a nation globally recognized for digital innovation, STEM excellence, and technological leadership, His Excellency Suresh Reddy, Ambassador of India. Representing a rapidly advancing hub for research, digital transformation, and regional cooperation, Her Excellency Polly Ioannou, Ambassador of Cyprus, and representing the leading global institution championing women's empowerment and gender equality in STEM and other fields, Ms. Marwa Alameddin, representative of UN Women. A very warm welcome to you today on this panel. Perhaps before we begin, allow me to briefly explain the flow of this session that we have today. We will move through three areas of focus where we will discuss different topics. I kindly ask our esteemed panelists to keep your interventions concise and to the point so that we can have a very interactive and rich conversation. The 3 rounds will start with, we will start to the first round with the national visions that are there and the innovation ecosystems that we are moving within. In this round, I would like to explore how each and every of the countries represented here today and the institutions are intentionally shaping its scientific and technological ecosystem. And I start with you, Your Excellency Ambassador Reddy. India has become a global leader in digital public infrastructure, space science, and STEM talent creation. What has been India's strategy that has rendered the strongest measurable impact on India's development in the area of STEM and innovation? The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shahira, and my congratulations to the organizers of this event, because I think this event is timely and much needed, because as somebody was mentioning, the future is not in the future, but it is already happening today thanks to AI. And the question is, are we prepared for the future? The previous panel was all about jobs, employment loss. But the question is, how are we preparing to deal with the challenge? And that is what in India we have been doing. Since 2014 especially, we have been focused on few areas. One is that how do we use technology to accelerate socio-economic development in the country? That has been the primary goal of the government. And second goal has been how to democratize technology, which means make it an inclusive process where everybody has access to technology. And as part of that approach, of course, I mean, we have come out with various initiatives such as the Digital India, the Startup India, which has today made India much more ready to adapt to the absorption of AI and its utilization. In a recent research done, it was found that the Indian companies were perhaps the most well-equipped to use AI, and also the companies were perhaps the most globally which were using AI actually. So that was something really remarkable. And as a strategy, since we are talking of women empowerment, I also want to mention that one critical strategy which the government adopted was making it an inclusive journey, an inclusive process. And so today you would be surprised to know that globally, after the US, India is the country in which is the second largest funding for women-led enterprises. We have, over the last 1 decade, we have sponsored more than $26 billion to support women-led enterprises, which is the second largest globally after the US. I think I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for this snapshot into India's ecosystem in the STEM, and shedding light on also the role of women and how India is supporting. That is a very interesting statistic, that it's the second largest funding goes to women enterprises. I go now to Your Excellency, Ambassador Ioannou. Cyprus has made remarkable progress in developing a knowledge-based economy that is supported by research centers and digital transformation strategies. Which initiative stands out as particularly transformative for Cyprus's scientific and technological landscape?
Thank you, Shahira. I think what I want to talk about is gender mainstreaming in this sector, because I think that would be the most transformative, as you say, element. And this is actually government policy that is being enforced right now. It centers around collecting data specifically concerning the women's participation in STEM fields. It centers around targeting specific women's groups within society, such as women in rural areas, and they're educating and familiarizing them with new technologies. It centers around combating stereotypes by forcing educators and career advisors to train in order to guide children within schools at an early age to focus on skills and preferences rather than gender specific professions as we've known them so far. It also provides for scholarships specifically for women to follow STEM fields. And last but not least, it makes the employment environment more women-friendly by increasing the number of care infrastructures for both babies and the elderly, increasing maternal leave, starting mandatory schooling earlier at age 4, and the gradual introduction of all-day primary schools. So for me, this is the policy that is key right now, because enhancing women's participation in STEM is going to be the most transformative policy of all. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for this very inspiring spotlight on how the government is supporting gender mainstreaming in Cyprus, and I hope we can take from that also in our next round some reflections on how collaboration in this area also in Egypt can take place. But now I look at Your Excellency, Ambassador Mashimbye. South Africa has long been a continental leader in research, renewable energy, and advanced science. What stands out, the question is, what stands out, and perhaps if you have one flagship initiative that has significantly advanced South Africa's STEM and innovation ecosystem in the recent years, we would love to hear about that.
Well, thank you very much. We are very grateful for this invitation. We think it's a timely conversation amongst ourselves as Africans. Before I answer your question directly, I just want to remember an African saying. An African saying that says, if you want to go fast, you must go alone. But if you want to go far, you must go together. As South Africans, we embrace fully that African expression, and you would have seen that it's an expression that carried us through the G20 that we just hosted resoundingly successfully. And issues of STEM were very prominent in the many thematic areas of that conference. There are many flagship projects that I may talk to, but I think there is one that comes to mind, which is the Square Kilometer Array. We call it the Meerkat project. It is probably the largest radio telescope in the world. That project was also done with the same African expression and belief, because we worked with many governments, we worked with many countries to bring that to fruition. It anchored South Africa in a rare category of global scientific leadership. That project is a designated precursor and will be integrated into the SKA MID, meaning South Africa is not participating on the margins. It is hosting core infrastructure in a global intergovernmental mega project. That project created a skills pipeline and a STEM gravity center, because radio astronomy requires scarce skills, radio frequency engineering, software, AI-enabled analytics, HPC, instrumentations, and so on. So I think that is the flagship project that comes to mind. Thank you.
Thank you for this, and also it is very far when you speak also about space and when you talk about radio astronomy, and therefore also here in North Africa we very much concur to that saying, if we want to go far we need to go together. And with that I turn to, in this first round, to Ms. Marwa Alameddin. From UN Women's global perspective, what are the key elements of an enabling STEM ecosystem that can meaningfully support women's participation and leadership in innovation?
Thank you, Shahira, and thank you for the invitation from Top 50 Women and from Nile University. It's quite an honor to be here, and the topic of this conference is very timely and important, and I'm very happy that it's being covered. So from UN Women's global perspective, our emphasis is that STEM is not just a technical field, it's actually a driver for sustainability and gender equality. Because, I mean, we've heard from Dr. Marianne earlier the numbers of women in the STEM field and researchers, and those numbers and these gaps are what is shaping designing technologies and understanding the needs of those that are being served. And the way we see it, there are three key pillars that actually can create this enabling environment. The first one being having policies and accountability measures, that having gender-responsive laws, equal pay, anti-discrimination and flexible working arrangement, not just from the government side, but from government, from academia, and from private sector. It's very essential to have that. And the working arrangements should also be coupled with mentorship programs and safe and inclusive workspaces. The second pillar is on education and skills. UNESCO data shows that the underrepresentation of women in engineering and ICT even where women are strong in natural resources or natural science, I mean. And that's something that we really need to work on. And let's not forget, of course, the global digital divide, which still is quite high comparing men to women. So this really requires us that we tackle gender stereotypes in curricula, ensuring digital literacy for women, and bridging the gender-digital divide. From early schooling through postgraduate and postdoctoral stages, girls and women need equitable access to STEM education, scholarship, mentoring, and digital skills, especially in AI, data science, and advanced engineering. The third and final pillar relates to leadership and finance, because here we're not talking just about women in STEM from the academia perspective, but also from the startup and the industry perspective. And representation really does matter, not just in participation, but also in leadership, in research, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Women leadership roles in STEM not only inspires, but also influence decisions. Creating pathways for women to lead research teams, innovation hubs, and tech enterprises is essential. Therefore, transparent promotion, sponsorship, and gender-responsive financing help women lead labs, companies, and startups. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marwa, for this and shedding light on the nexus between gender empowerment and the STEM, but not only STEM, but looking at it through these three pillars that you have mentioned. The first round was really looking into the ecosystem and the entire landscape and the national visions that are there to encourage the STEM landscape. Now we enter into the second round of our session today, where we want to focus on international cooperation and partnerships. Scientific advancement today relies increasingly on collaboration, joint research, shared innovation platforms, cross-border knowledge exchange. So cooperation is not only beneficial, but it is a strategic requirement and a priority. I start with you, Ambassador Ioannou, this time. Cyprus and Egypt already have a lot of collaborations in different areas, such as energy, education, and innovation. Looking ahead, which STEM fields hold the greatest potential for expanded partnership between our two countries?
Thank you, Shahir. I think I would single out three areas. So the first would be green and digital transition. The second would be research, but also other types of mobility, because a problem we have in Cyprus is the low enrollment rates. Not just, of course, we do have the gender divide, but overall, I would say we have low enrollment rates and interest by students in STEM fields, whereas, as we all know, the biggest increase in employment, in job demand relates to STEM fields. And the third, I would say, is education, particularly when it comes to tertiary education and research exchange programs at university level.
So people here from representing different institutions can get inspired on the areas of collaboration that would exist with Cyprus. Thank you for that. Ambassador Mashimye, Egypt and South Africa are two of the continent's largest STEM and research powerhouses. From your perspective, what are the most promising areas for bilateral cooperation and what might accelerate the progress?
Thank you very much. I think one needs to use a conversation of this kind to inform. For about 30 years, South Africa and Egypt have been using a bilateral mechanism to regulate our bilateral relationship, which we call the Joint Commission for Cooperation. For 30 years, that commission was chaired by the Ministers of Foreign Affairs. I'm happy to report that from next year, We have upgraded that commission. It will now be chaired by the heads of state themselves, which is indicative of how seriously and how strategic we see the relationship between Egypt and South Africa. Because as the biggest economies of the continent, that comes with its own responsibilities. The responsibility to lead, and lead in a qualitative manner. Qualitatively ensuring that the African Continental Free Trade Area doesn't become just a theoretical or an abstract platform, but it becomes a reality. What will accelerate progress is not just ambition, but execution. Cooperation must focus on a small number of flagship projects backed by political authority, number one, sustained funding, and private sector integration from the outset. Regulatory alignment, shared research, infrastructure, and large-scale talent mobility, especially joint doctoral programs and dual academic appointments, will matter more than new agreements or institutions. If Egypt and South Africa align power, capital, and policy behind these priorities, we will not only strengthen bilateral ties, but decisively shift Africa's position from technology adopter to technology shaper. We can no longer just participate, but we must shape. Thank you.
Thank you for this. Emphasis on leading being a key word here in your input, Your Excellency. And from the very north to the very south of the continent, that together, not only bilaterally, but that it inspires also the entire continent to look into implementational aspects of moving progress forward and not just in theory. Thanks a lot for that. I move to Ms. Marwa. I would like to ask you, how can Egypt leverage international partnerships to amplify women's participation and leadership in STEM fields? What are models, for example, that the UN Women has seen globally that could be adapted here?
Thank you, Shahira. Well, I mean, first of all, Egypt, of course, is very uniquely placed in a crossroad between Africa, the Arab states, and Europe, and with the Vision 2030 also prioritizing digital transformation and innovation and gender equality, it puts it in a very good place to be ready for this. Partnership can multiply the impact of women in STEM across academia, industry, and startups. And perhaps three opportunities are, one is co-creation, whether we're talking about research lab, research hubs and mobility, but also in terms of startups and industry. Through perhaps expanding some of the existing and ongoing partnership with leading universities and tech companies, it can open doors for Egyptian women, scientists and entrepreneurs to practice some of the cutting-edge research and also share some of the innovation that they have. Whether we're talking about AI, biotechnology, or climate tech, and we've heard already from their excellencies, the ambassadors, and I'm sure India also, on the innovation and being top leaders around the globe. So this kind of exchange and kind of cooperation, be it bilateral or triangular or even continental, would definitely be a great opportunity. And we have already hubs existing in Egypt that can really be the partner in that, including, for example, the Creativa hubs under the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, which is working also with several universities, could be that access point to see how we can link existing talents in Egypt with global best practices and global experiences. The second point is talent accelerators. Egypt has a lot of talents that are ready to kind of be used and be benefited from both in Egypt and globally. And perhaps structured training programs that link women to global tech careers through remote working and other modalities can really help with that aspect. And we already, for example, with UN Women, we do have a regional collaboration with Nokia, where we train women within the tech field to see how they can be part of that industry and benefit from it. and also, I mean, Egypt already has so many, I think, over 70 new offshore agreements that were signed recently. So that's, again, an opportunity for women to be utilized there and their expertise there. The third point is, of course, there's third opportunities in investment and startups. The startup scene in Egypt is booming. We've seen policies and strategies coming out on that aspect, and really real efforts to help startups being established in Egypt and grow as well. So definitely leveraging partnerships with development bank, bilateral cooperation, and with bilateral partners, including, of course, and with UN agency, would be essential to be able to incubate and accelerate women-led enterprises. And there is already, again, efforts happening in Egypt, one of them being under the Nile University with Nile Entrepreneurs, and there is an existing program dedicated to women. So these programs, if we can scale them up and bring in blended finance modalities, can really help with increasing the investment. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So I take making available the spaces for exchange and co-creation and the hubs where people and talents can meet. The second being talents, really, and accelerating the talents that are there and are making up this space of exchange. And last but not least, partnerships in the area of investment in startup. Thanks a lot for that. I move to you, Your Excellency. India is deeply engaged in also South-South cooperation and emerging technologies. Where do you see the strongest opportunities for deeper STEM collaboration between India and Egypt?
Thank you. You know, what is interesting in this question is that as technology is evolving, I think the access to technology is also getting curtailed. And you know, for the past few years, the debate has been the digital divide. Which side of the divide are you? Are you in the side in which you're having access to technology? Are you in the other side where you're not able to afford technology? And that has been a main issue which these countries of the South have been facing. And that is what we have been working with them. But before I speak on that, since we have the chairperson of the Egyptian Telecom, I should tell the story. In 2014, our Prime Minister, he had that vision that India must become a digital country, and everybody must be part of that. And it should not be only for the urban areas, and it should not be only for the rich, but every person in the street should be able to utilize the digital technology. And so we launched this Digital India initiative, in which we laid 250,000 kilometers of fiber optic cables. And almost we had all the remote places connected through satellite. And so today, it has become a situation in the last 10 years that I would say about 95% of the population is totally connected to the internet. And what is interesting is that as per one estimate, the amount of data which is consumed in India on a day-to-day basis is more than the data consumed in the US and Europe. That is the quantity of data that is being utilized today. And that is a transformation which happens when you provide access to the people. And now, another interesting part in this is that we believe the women are equally tech savvy. We believe in that. And so we have come out with very innovative schemes. Like one very innovative scheme which we have in India is what we call drone Didi. Didi means sister. And drones, we all know drones. And so basically we invited women from each village to join this scheme. And so today we have about 25,000 drone Didis. We selected the women, we gave them training in operating drones, and then the government funded the purchase of the drones. And so today, in 25,000 villages, these women are operating the drones and using it for agriculture and related areas. And it is not that they went to college or something, we just believe with the right training, they are capable of adapting to technology. And it has proved to be very effective and a very successful model. Because when it comes to technology, we have to think out of the box. We cannot be curtailed by the traditional models and approaches to technology. And that's what we have been doing. And as part of that process, you know, we have an annual training capacity building program called ITEC, Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation, under which we provide training slots for 10,000. 10,000 training slots we provide annually every year to the countries of the global south. and we provide 200 for Egypt also. And this covers different topics. This covers from AI to quantum computing to health to basic internet-related work to digital technology, etc. But it's very broad-based and comprehensive, and we fund it naturally. And so this is a program which is very much sought after by all governments and countries. But on the area of collaboration with Egypt specific, as I mentioned, we are already providing 200 slots, training programs for Egyptian nationals. Plus also we are offering large number of scholarships covering different fields. But I'm very happy to say that recently one Egyptian student was selected for award of a science research scholarship. It's a very advanced and a very prestigious scholarship in which he has gone to Indian Institute of Science, which is considered to be one of the premier research institutions in Asia. And I was very proud to see that an Egyptian student was selected for advanced research in that institute. But what are we actually doing on the ground? We have worked to set up 2 Indian Institute of Technology, one in Tanzania and one in Mozambique. Now, Indian Institute of Technology is considered to be globally centers of excellence when it comes to technology. And frankly, when we look at the global Fortune 500 companies which have senior management, you would find a large percentage of them would be from these IITs, as we call them. And these IITs are on par with the Stanford, MIT, whichever institution you want to look at. And so we helped to set up 2 new centers, 2 new universities in Tanzania and in Mozambique, branches of these IITs, with the idea of spreading the knowledge in the region through them. And with Egypt, the opportunity for engagement is quite rich, because you are well aware that we are in the field of space. India is a leader today in the field of space. And I'm very proud to say that many of our missions, whether it was a Mars mission or whether it was a mission to the moon, all were led by women scientists. When I say led by women scientists, I'm talking of the team leaders were women, the scientists were all women. And really for us, it's a matter of pride that we start talking of inclusion, because we take it for granted that they're already included, right? And that's what is a matter of pride for us, that our women scientists are leading a lot of research from the forefront, and they're being role models, and this is being reflected. Because if you look at in the startup scene also, today in the startup scene, we have about 10%, the number is not too large, but 10% of the startups today in India are women-led and initiatives of women. Now, 10% is a large number, because the number of startups we have in India today is about 100,000, 120,000 startups we have in India. And so from that, if you're talking of 10%, you're talking of more than 10,000 startups in India, which are being led by women. Now, those are the areas where I feel we have the opportunity to engage and collaborate, in addition to the academic collaboration. And here, what is the important element is that one area where we actively collaborate is also in policy-making process. Because on one hand, we promote collaboration at the academic level, other hand between the entrepreneurs, but the government is the one which needs to be also supported in this process. And that is where the policy-making process becomes very critical. And that is what we come forward and we share our knowledge in terms of making policies, so that we're able to effectively utilize our own experiences and build on the experiences, so that we're able to accelerate the transformation process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. 95% of the population is connected, and your focus on the inclusion and the equality and access to technology is indeed very inspirational, and an area in which Egypt and India should definitely continue collaborating and cooperating on. Thanks a lot for this, Ambassador. Now we move to the last round of questions, which is related to the topic of talents, innovation, but also addressing global challenges. And maybe if you can help me also make it a very quick and speedy one, so that I was told we need to speed up. But at the heart of innovation diplomacy, which is the title of our session today, lies the people. Youth, researchers, entrepreneurs, but also especially women leaders, who turn scientific advancement into societal progress. And I take this also as one of the introductory words that you have said, Ms. Marwa. on really the nexus between the scientific advancement and the societal progress. My question goes first to Ambassador Mashimbye. South Africa has championed inclusion in STEM for many years. What do you reckon are the biggest challenges facing young people in STEM field, especially women? And what can be done to address them? It's a very big question, but perhaps you can help me make it a very focused answer.
Maybe the question today is not inclusion. When you go in and around the world, or at least in my country, the scientific institutions and universities and colleges, I am told that in many universities, scientific institutions, majority of students, majority of people are women. So what we need to be talking about, it's not only inclusion, but retention. Where you find that many of these careers, funding is a big challenge. Environments that retain women or young women are very challenging. So you find that everybody today is doing their bit in including women in STEM areas, but the retention is the issue. The second one, and I'm not saying everybody should do it, I can only give you an experience of my country. Political will. Let me explain political will. In South Africa, it's not a luxury to have 50% of women in every socio-economic aspect of life, including political leadership. It is a constitutional obligation, 50%. I know most men in South Africa don't like it, but for 30 years, we have been making sure that it is implemented as a legal, constitutional, ethical, and moral requirement. So political will is key. I think we all agree with the tenets of what ought to be done, but political will is key.
Thanks a lot for that. I will not conclude it because you have done so yourself, Your Excellency, but I take it to the next question to Ms. Marwa. Based on UN Women's global experience, what is one proven intervention, whether policy-based, educational, or industry-driven, that accelerates women engagement and particularly leadership in STEM?
Well, I think based on I think for the past 15 years with UN Women and before that when we were UNIFEM, we really looked at like different ways of doing things. And what we've seen is that it needs to be comprehensive. You need to touch on the policy and the enabling environment. You need to have women being given the right skills. You need for them to also being given the opportunities and finance. And what we're currently doing in Egypt and in the Arab states is that we're about to launch a new initiative on surging women's employment in the Arab region, Egypt being one of the top countries that will be focusing on. And the idea is that based on our extensive experience, we found that there are 3 sectors that if women's employment is accelerated, it will have the highest impact. One of which is STEM, being the top one, green, which also very much links to STEM, and the third being care. And taking from what was said earlier, it's about retention, as women have a lot of household responsibilities that fall upon them, being it child care, elderly care, or just household responsibilities at large, but also as an avenue for women's employment. So for us, it's those 3 sectors that we're focusing on. And the idea, it's not something that we can do by ourselves. It's about how do we have multiple partners in that, be it private sector, multilateral financial institutions, bilateral partners, civil society, and of course, the government and the political will that exists. So for us, this is something that we're launching next year. And we know that with that, we'd be able to collectively increase women's labor force participation in the region, which is unfortunately, being even from this region, I find it really frustrating, is the lowest globally. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for that. Yes, I retain the word retention that was mentioned now twice so far, but also the comprehensive approach that needs to be taken into consideration when doing interventions, but also the multi-stakeholder engagement. Thanks a lot for that. Ambassador Reddy, India's STEM education and talent pipeline are admired worldwide, and you have mentioned earlier also some very impressive examples of what India is doing in the southern countries. What aspect of India's approach to empowering youth and women, and you have mentioned a few, could serve as a model for international collaboration?
You know, the previous panel had raised one important point in terms of empowering the youth, in terms of preparing them for the future. And there I'd like to really appreciate the comment made by UNFPA Representative Eves. He said it's a youth, the children with whom we need to really start. And that is what we are doing in India. Two things we have done. One is that about 5 years back, we revised our entire curriculum and made it vocation specific and made them more STEM specific. So the entire curriculum of the country has been revised today. And second thing we have done is that we have established what we call Atal Tinkering Labs. These are scientific labs which have been established in about 15,000 schools across the country, in which all the children are trained to do coding, to do various work relating to robotics, you name it. So that they get that experience, they get the excitement and the fun of being part of the STEM journey. And now, tomorrow, we believe that they are going to be the leaders in their respective fields when they graduate. And that is what we are really doing. We are building the youth for the future. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for that, Ambassador. So yes, investing in the young and investing early is very important. Ambassador Ioannou, you talked earlier about women. Is there an area in STEM that you would like to really perhaps single out when it comes to women empowerment?
Thank you, Shahir. I think that would be artificial intelligence. And that's for 3 reasons. The first is that women's participation in ICT is by far the lowest. The second is that online violence against women is a very serious problem, and the only way to ensure a safe digital ecosystem for women and girls is through enhanced participation of women in artificial intelligence. And this is actually why online violence against women is one of our priorities as Cyprus presidency of the Council of the European Union, which starts on the 1st of January. The third is that AI systems are gender biased because AI data sets reflect the prejudices that we see in the real world, that we see offline. So if we don't have more women designing these algorithms, then gender biases will be simply perpetuated online. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for shedding a light on this very important topic and how from the get-go, from the very beginning, when looking at AI models, that they should really integrate the gender aspect for the results to be also fair and in the way that we want it to be. So this takes us to the very end of today's session, and I would like to ask Your Excellencies and Ms. Marwa to really, in one sentence, what advice would you give to young innovators and young women and young men sitting with us here today, shaping the future of STEM? In one line, and maybe we do it in the order from here to there, because there was also one question by one of the students, what is available in terms of also scholarships and so on. So maybe in your advice you can touch on that. Thank you.
One sentence to the entrepreneurs: it's not easy, but don't give up. Keep doing it, because today, thanks to technology, the opportunities are rich. So long as you're dealing with a real life problem, you would be successful, because there is a need for solutions for those problems. That is what has been our experience. I mentioned we already have more than 10,000 startups being led by women. So it shows it's possible for everybody to be successful. Second, on scholarships, yes, we have been receiving some of those queries. And we are planning to start a series in our Facebook page and our Instagram page. We're sharing information about the different scholarships. So I would invite you to look at the embassy website and the Facebook page. Thank you.
I would say one advice would be to always keep in mind and have as an anchor the common good when you work on research and innovation and the ethics of the work that you do.
Well, clearly the advice we are supposed to give is to young Egyptians. So my advice to young Egyptians is get to know the African continent. The opportunities are not in Europe. Opportunities are in Africa. Africa is the last frontier of growth. The next billionaires, the next millionaires will be from Africa, within Africa. Today, you look at the clever Egyptian companies. They are making profits in and around the continent. The biggest hydroelectrical power generation project is in Tanzania. Who's doing it? Egyptian companies. The great hydroelectrical power generation that can power the whole Africa through the Congo River is being worked not by everyone else, but Egyptian companies. So young people get to know the continent. This is where you belong.
Well, my advice, I mean, complementing everything that has been said already, is that my advice would be for them to continue to learn, to continue to seek opportunities like this forum, and to claim their seats, because they need to find opportunities and seek them, and that their voice and vision in STEM and other fields do really matter and will be the one shaping the future. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. No need to make concluding remarks on this, but I take away with me the very strong political intention that needs to be, and political will that needs to be taken into account, the attitude of young people when it comes to working and contributing to the STEM area, the good intentions and the common good in mind, getting to know Africa, and of course forever learning and continuing to look into our self-development and continued learning. Thanks a lot for this very rich panel, for being with us today. Thanks a lot also for the audience, for their attention and for the questions that came in. It was a pleasure to moderate this session, and I wish you a fruitful day, 2 days ahead for the summit. Thanks a lot.